On the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Nuneaton, the jewel of the South Midlands, the town who gave us such great men as George Eliot and Larry Grayson, the throbbing heart of this teeming metropolis, the pearl of the CV13 postcode, down by the roundabout and up the one-way system, is Nuneaton Town Hall, where we can find none other than Nuneaton's Mr. Entertainment.
Hello ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls, I'm Barry Tadcaster and this is my friend Ken Jevons, who is an orang pendek. Hello, my name is Ken Jevons and I am an orang pendek. Unlike the other orang pendeks, I do not come from the Indonesian island of Sumatra. I come from the London borough of Lewisham, where I am employed by Lewisham Town Council as an ombudsman. This week we're going to be emulating the behaviour of hedgehogs. Yes, this week live on the show we will be self-anointing.
I don't know about you, but I thought that was very erinaceous.
I really like the old credits.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of On the Track. I expect most of you know already, but just in case you don't, my name's John Downs and I'm the director of a weird little organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and ever since 1992 we've been working all around the world doing research into mystery animals. And every Saturday afternoon at 3, I bring you a potpourri. No, Louis will have a go at me and make me pronounce it properly as potpourri, except we're not in Europe anymore, so I can pronounce it any way I want. Ha ha! None of your Brussels directives on pronunciation here, thank you very much. Every afternoon, Saturday afternoon that is, at 3, I bring you a potpourri of hard science, weird shit, and a little bit of surreality, really. And it's all wrapped up in a intensely entertaining whole, quite often involving glove puppets. I mean, what else could anyone ask for? Well, I've got so much to tell you because so much is happening in the wonderful world of the CFZ at the moment. And there are things I really should have told you over the past couple of weeks, but for various reasons I didn't. But I'm now going to do a bit of a catch-up. So first of all, anybody who ever went to one of the weird weekends in Wolseley will, I'm sure, remember Jess the Elder. That's Jessica Hurd, who then married my nephew, David Braund-Phillips. Well, the two of them, my dear, dear, sweet niece and nephew, have had a baby, a little girl called Elsie, and they've done me the amazing honour of asking me to be her godfather. I tell you what, I cannot tell you how touched I am. And I'll tell you what, young lady, I'm only going to be in my late 70s by the time you start bringing inappropriate boyfriends round, and I still have my walking stick and the cudgel that I stole from Manchester International 2 after a Happy Mondays show 30 years ago. So there. I think I'm going to like being a great uncle. Next! Who's I am shocked to reveal to you that there is somebody within the On the Track team who shall remain nameless, Louis, who is of Belgian descent, even has a Belgian name, Rosia, and is very interested in Belgian art and culture, and had never heard of Jacques Brel. Really, really, really. Well, his spirit is alive, well, and living in Woolsbury. On with the next story. Who's next? Regular viewers will remember that last week I brought you the news, the very welcome news, may I say, that the large tortoiseshell, a species of butterfly supposedly extinct in these islands since the early 1950s, seems to have returned, and there are very well attested reports of it having bred in at least 3 different locations, quite widely spread out locations, I may say. Ages ago we told you about the activities of people who call themselves introductionists, who, as the name implies, introduce or reintroduce creatures into the British countryside, and they do it without following the guidelines laid down by DEFRA and the Wildlife and Countryside Act. Is this a good thing? Well, cautiously, I'd say yes, I think it probably is. Because, as the late great Jim Hacker said in one of the episodes of Yes Minister, that at the time that he was speaking, which was sometime in the mid-1980s, it took longer to make a council house than it took to make a cathedral in the 9th century. It's certain that government procedures take an awful long time, and my personal opinion is that quite often these procedures are unnecessary, or at least appear to be unnecessary. So, could introductionists be responsible for having reintroduced the large tortoiseshell to Britain? Well, quite possibly, but large tortoiseshells have been turning up in various parts of the country, particularly the south, and particularly the Isle of Wight, which is interestingly not one of the places where breeding has been reported. But they've been turning up for many, many years. And I think that if introductionists have given them a helping hand to become reintroduced, to become re-established, then that's actually not a bad thing at all. As regular viewers of this show will, I'm sure, be aware, Carl Marshall and his gallant band are currently in the Forest of Dean working on a project to find out the truth behind evidence that a lynx-sized cat, quite possibly a European lynx, is living there and may well be breeding. But as always seems to be the case when anybody talks about there being a potentially large or middle-sized carnivore living in an area where they're not supposed to be, or where they're not meant to be according to accepted wisdom, not according to the way that the ecosystem is supposed to work, and those are 2 totally different things. But as always seems to be the case, people then get really, really angry and upset, and they say, but what about the children? What's going to happen when there are enormous killer lynxes jumping out at our children from every tree? Well, I think we could actually do well to take a leaf out of Belgium's book. And yes, I didn't mean this to be a Belgiocentric show, but it is a Belgiocentric show. Because Belgium has just confirmed reports that lynx are now living wild in the country. And why is this important? Well, first of all, have a look at this. As you can see, these photographs are remarkable, and they're particularly remarkable because they were taken by a guy with a camera rather than by a remote camera trap. But they are also remarkable in the way that the Belgian government has responded to these reports. And how have they responded? Have they responded by sending in the military and taking out a whole area of their forest and making it into a no man's land where no one can go for the next 20 years? No, of course they haven't. They have done a poster and information campaign pointing out to the Belgian people that lynx are essentially harmless, and if they leave the lynx alone, the lynx is going to leave them alone. And I think we could learn an awful lot from that approach here in the United Kingdom. And I'm not just talking about lynx. And now this next section only comes to you because of my interpretation of the law surrounding fair use. Look at this. And yes, we are using this piece of video for newsworthy purposes and analysis. And no, we're not making any money out of it, even though it includes pictures of a whale's todger. You will, I'm sure, if you saw it, remember that a few weeks ago we had my old friend Nigel Wright on the show, and he remembered a time back in 1997 when a whale, a dead whale, washed up on a beach in Exmouth, and it sported very peculiar injuries, including what appeared to be coring in the rectum and sexual organs. And Nigel pointed out at the time that this seemed to be very parallel to what had happened over the years with UFO-related animal mutilation carcasses on land. And I pointed out that the injuries looked very much like something done by a fish called the cookie-cutter shark, if it wasn't for the fact that, one, the cookie-cutter shark isn't found in the English Channel, and two, cookie-cutter sharks are actually relatively small, and these injuries were enormous. So we decided it would probably be a good idea to take a closer look at this injured whale that washed up dead on a beach in New Jersey last week. I should probably give you all a trigger warning here, because this image or these images may be upsetting to some people. They are certainly gruesome, and the accounts of the injuries which eventually killed the poor creature are fairly graphic. Now, the thing that's interesting about this whale, you can see that there is a main impact point, which was probably caused by it being hit by a boat. But then you can see all along the sides of the whale that there are a whole bunch of different sized injuries, other injuries, and these are probably caused by predation by medium-sized to large-sized sharks who ate bits of the whale, unfortunately for the whale, while it was still alive. Now, another thing which is interesting from a cryptozoological point of view is, look here, the whale's penis is sticking up in a manner akin possibly to what has been known as a hanged man's erection. The idea that when a male animal is in the stress of dying, it ends up getting a erection which can then continue after death. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is that it is a classic image of what so many people have claimed is the reasoning behind long-necked sea serpent reports the fact that a whale, either having just enjoyed coitus or, in this case, because it's dead, is on its back with its penis pointing up in the air, and the hump being the back of the whale, and the long curved penis sticking up being the head and neck, is what so many people have interpreted as one of Heuvelmann's many sea serpent categories. I'm not sure how much I agree with this theory, but I think it probably holds water for some sightings at least. And it is quite a change to have a strange carcass in New Jersey which nobody by any stretch of the imagination can blame on the Jersey Devil. And now I have some news for you, which, if it turns out to be true, is absolutely fantastic. This venerable old gentleman was Sudan, the last known male northern white rhinoceros. He was euthanized due to age-related complications at an age of approximately 45 in 2018, and this left 2 female northern white rhinoceroses as the only known members of the subspecies left alive. If this is true, and it quite possibly is, then this subspecies is functionally extinct. However, in recent weeks, news stories have come out of South Sudan, which is, unfortunately, an area with more than its fair share of problems at the moment. But there have been reports from the wilder parts of the country from some people, including senior members of the South Sudanese government, that northern white rhinoceroses still exist there and have been seen very recently. If this is true, then it means that this much beleaguered subspecies may be able to be pulled back from the brink of extinction. So what has led to the decline of this once widespread subspecies? Well, the northern white rhinoceros, also once upon a time known as Cotton's white rhinoceros, until it was decided that this was inappropriate because it was named after a white man from the colonial era, was once found over quite a large area of Central Africa south of the Sahara Desert. But whilst habitat loss and historical hunting for trophies no doubt played some part in the decline of the subspecies, the main thing which has caused its almost entire extinction, together with the near extinction of so many other rhinoceros species and subspecies around the world, is the demand for rhino horn in traditional Chinese medicine. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I'm being racist against the Chinese. I was brought up by a Chinese family, and I consider myself to be at least as much Chinese as I am English. But the use of wild animal body parts in medicines, especially as they don't do any good, is nothing short of barbarism. And as recent events on the world stage have shown us that eating wild animals on an industrial level is not really a very good idea, I think that it is about time that the Chinese government, who have, after all, outlawed the use of rhino horn of any species in Chinese medicine, should put their money where their mouth is and use the might of the Chinese government that they use on all sorts of other things to save these poor, beautiful creatures. And let's hope that the stories from South Sudan are correct, and that Sudan here is not, or was not, the last of his species, the last male rhino of the northern white rhinoceros subspecies, because the ecosystems of our planet are getting increasingly beleaguered, and it would be horrible to lose yet another animal, especially an animal as beautiful and unique as this, just because some elderly men on the other side of the world think that powdered rhino horn is going to give them a stiffy. Look at this. Look at this remarkably shiny, glossy artifact which I'm holding in my hand. This is the legendary book about the Russian Almasty and Yeti sightings by the equally legendary Boris Porshnev, who died very nearly 50 years ago. This book was written in the early 60s and distributed in a very small print run, which actually was of an unfinished manuscript of something like, how many do we talk about? 180 copies. Only 180 copies were ever distributed, and they were in Russian. Some years ago, Richard Freeman managed to get hold of Porshnev's grandson, and Porshnev's grandson was kind enough to say that we could salvage the manuscript, have it translated into English, and publish it ourselves after all these years. So that's exactly what we did. I want to say an enormous thank you to Lars Thomas, who translated it into English, and to Dr. Chris Clark, who then went and edited it. This is a remarkable piece of work, and it is a remarkable concatenation of effort by 3 or 4 different people to get it ready. It would have been finished several years ago, but I'm afraid my efforts in the last few years have been looking after Karina as she died. But I'm now moving on with my life. The CFZ is moving on with its life, and this book is now available for sale at a specially discounted rate through the CFZ website. So go and have a look on www.cfz.org.uk. In fact, Louise keeps on telling me that I don't have to use the word www anymore. But go check out the CFZ website, and there is a special offer there. So please go and have a look and buy this book. It is a fascinating document of a time which is fast becoming forgotten. Well done to all involved.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page, and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who is a regular visit to the studio, wants me to remind you, always remember to ring the notification bell. Otherwise, you won't be told when we've got a new show available. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it? And that, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and anybody else who's watching or listening or doing whatever else you do to this show, that is about it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it entertaining and or edifying, or some weird mixture of the two. And I hope you're all going to show your appreciation by liking it and doing all the other things which each week we implore you to do. I'm very, very grateful for the community which is building up around these shows. I mean it. It's Saturday afternoons is one of my favourite times of the week, and I really enjoy it when me, Louis and V get together and sit there talking, chatting in the live chat on the right-hand side of the page while we watch the premieres. Thank you, all of you, for your support. I really appreciate it. And guess what? We'll be back in a week's time, because every 7 days it's Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon is CFZ on the track time. And I'm going to be there. If you're going to be there, then I'll be seeing you.